There is a code the truly wealthy follow, and the brands you wear either prove you know it or expose that you do not. The labels you think signal success are the exact ones being avoided by the people who have actually made it. We are not talking about quality or craftsmanship. This is about perception. Because in the world of real money, what you wear can whisper power or scream desperation. Today, we are breaking down 10 luxury brands that instantly expose fake wealth. By the time we reach number 1, you might be looking at your own wardrobe very differently. Number 10. Michael Kors Collection. Here is a brand that tried to solve its own problem and made things worse. Michael Kors launched its collection line to escape the accessible luxury label that had been haunting it for years. Higher price points, finer materials, more refined silhouettes. On paper, it was supposed to separate the serious buyers from the outlet shoppers. In practice, it did the opposite. The issue is simple. Once a name becomes synonymous with mass market appeal, no amount of rebranding can erase it. Michael Kors generated roughly $3.5 billion in revenue in 2024. That scale is precisely the problem. When a brand is everywhere, it stops signaling anything other than availability. You cannot sell exclusivity when your logo is sitting in every department store and airport terminal in the country. The collection line suffers from association. True high net worth individuals do not parse sub-brands. They see Michael Kors, and they think jet-set totes and gold hardware discounted at every outlet from coast to coast. The name carries so much baggage that even elevated pieces are weighed down before leaving the store. The premium tier cannot escape the shadow of the diffusion lines beneath it. What wealthy buyers want is discretion. They want pieces that require knowledge to recognize. Michael Kors Collection offers a louder attempt at respectability from a brand that spent years chasing volume over mystique. Once you chase volume, the elite quietly leave. They do not want to share symbols with everyone. They want barriers that keep the mainstream out entirely. The ultra-wealthy avoid it because wearing it signals you still care about being seen. Real wealth does not need an audience. It does not need validation from strangers. But once a brand proves it values visibility over restraint, the wealthy stop watching and start moving on. Number 9. Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss occupies a strange space. It is expensive enough to feel important, but accessible enough to hang in every corporate wardrobe across the globe. That positioning is exactly why it exposes the wearer. You see Hugo Boss in boardrooms, at conferences, and in environments where people are trying to look successful rather than actually being it. The brand became shorthand for professional ambition. The brand generated 4.3 billion euros in revenue in 2024. Boss dominates the premium segment, particularly in formal wear. The suits are sharp and the construction is solid. But the problem is that Hugo Boss has become the default uniform for people who want to project ambition without the track record to match. It is aspiration, dressed as achievement. It is the costume of climbing. In circles of genuine wealth, Hugo Boss reads as trying. It signals someone who believes success is about looking the part rather than owning the room. The quietly affluent moved on to Loro Piana, Brunello Cucinelli, and tailors operating out of small ateliers in Naples or London. These labels do not scream anything. They simply fit exceptionally well and communicate through subtlety alone. Hugo Boss is not a bad brand. It is simply too visible. It appears in too many mid-level corporate environments and aspirational closets. When you see it, you do not think old money. You think someone who read an article about dressing for success. You think someone still proving themselves. That association has become permanent. Hugo Boss is what people buy when they want to feel wealthy without being there yet. The truly rich are not dressing to impress middle management. They are dressing for themselves and no one else. And once a brand becomes the uniform of ambition, real wealth makes a point of never wearing it. Number 8. Philipp Plein. Philipp Plein might be the loudest name on this list, And that is exactly the problem. The brand built itself on excess. Swarovski crystals, skull motifs, leather jackets designed for a nightclub that never closes. Everything about Philipp Plein screams, "Look at me." That desperation for attention is what exposes the wearer. The aesthetic is aggression packaged as luxury. The brand reports revenues around 215 million euros and operates over 100 stores globally. There is clearly a market for this aesthetic. But in the world of actual wealth, that aesthetic reads as compensation. When someone walks in wearing Philipp Plein, the room does not think success. It thinks insecurity dressed up as confidence. It thinks someone overcompensating for something missing. True luxury has moved in the opposite direction. The wealthiest consumers gravitate toward quiet sophistication, minimal logos, and craftsmanship you feel rather than display. Philipp Plein offers aggression and flash, the visual equivalents of shouting your net worth at a dinner party. The brand is designed for people who need to be seen from across the room and remembered. Old money and established wealth view maximalism as social overreach. The crystals and bold prints do not signal arrival. They signal someone still auditioning for a seat at the table. You do not prove wealth by announcing it. You prove it by not needing to. You prove it through restraint. The brand has admirers. Celebrities have worn it, and customers continue lining up for the spectacle. But none of that changes how it registers among people with generational money. To them, Philipp Plein is noise mistaken for signal. It is volume without substance. And if excess exposes insecurity, the next brand shows what happens when shock becomes the entire identity. Number 7. Balenciaga. Balenciaga once stood for architectural precision and couture-level craftsmanship. Under Cristobal Balenciaga, the house was synonymous with mastery. But in the hype-driven era under Demna Gvasalia, the brand became a symbol of fashion as provocation. That transformation is exactly what made it a tell. The house chose relevance over reverence and paid dearly. Balenciaga's revenue dropped to approximately 1.2 billion euros in 2023, down from over 1.4 billion the prior year. The 2022 ad campaign scandal accelerated an already building problem. The brand slipped from second on the list index to 18th within months. The fall was steep, public, and impossible to ignore. The items from this era, the Triple S sneakers, the trash bag pouches, the ironic everything, were designed to provoke. Provocation is not what real wealth seeks. Wealthy buyers do not want clothing that sparks arguments or becomes memes. They want quiet armor that protects rather than exposes. They want invisibility. Wearing hype era Balenciaga signals you are chasing trends, that you need fashion to say something shocking on your behalf. It tells the room you bought into noise rather than substance. That positioning is the opposite of understated confidence. It broadcasts cultural anxiety rather than security. There is still incredible craftsmanship in Balenciaga's couture work. The house employs artisans who produce extraordinary pieces. But the visible pieces, the ones people actually wear and post, became so saturated they lost all sense of rarity. In luxury, once everyone has it, no one wants it anymore. Scarcity is everything. But if Balenciaga lost itself chasing provocation, the next brand made a different bet. It merged streetwear with luxury pricing and discovered that cultural moments have expiration dates. Subscribe if you want more videos exposing what the luxury industry never says out loud. Number 6. Off-White. Off-White was never supposed to be forever. Virgil Abloh himself predicted streetwear would eventually die. He said it plainly in 2019. The question was never if, but when. In 2024, LVMH answered by selling the brand entirely. That sale was public acknowledgement that the era Off-White represented is over. The experiment concluded. After Abloh's passing in 2021, the brand struggled to find footing. New leadership tried to reset. But the energy was gone. The consumer base had moved on, and so had culture. What was once revolutionary became residual. The brand that defined a moment became trapped by it. What Off-White represented was the moment streetwear met luxury pricing. Industrial tape, quotation marks on everything, ironic labeling. It was fashion as commentary, and for a while, it was the most exciting thing happening. But that excitement had a shelf life. Trends age poorly, and Off-White aged faster than most. The visual language expired. Wearing Off-White today signals you are still attached to a cultural moment that has passed. It tells the room you are holding on to something the fashion world already processed and discarded. The wealthy do not wear timestamps. They wear pieces that resist the current altogether. They invest in permanence. Streetwear itself is not dead. It has returned to its roots, to local labels and community-based brands that never tried becoming luxury. Off-White tried bridging two worlds and ended up belonging to neither. The truly wealthy recognized this shift early and pivoted to quieter labels prioritizing longevity over relevance. They chose timelessness. But if Off-White got trapped by its own moment, the next brand has fought a different battle. And once a brand becomes trapped in a moment, the wealthy leave before the moment ends. Number 5. Versace has always been loud. The Medusa head, the gold chains, the Baroque prints. This was never a brand designed to whisper. It was designed to roar. For decades, that worked. Versace was synonymous with bold, unapologetic glamour. But in the current luxury landscape, that loudness has become a liability. What once signaled confidence now signals effort. The brand generated approximately $1 billion in revenue in 2024. Prada recently acquired Versace for $1.38 billion, a significant markdown from the $2.1 billion Capri Holdings paid in 2018. That valuation drop tells a story. The market believes Versace has lost some shine. The brand is worth less than 7 years ago. Among discreet wealth circles, Versace reads as performative. The prints and gold do not signal power. They signal effort. It looks like you are trying to command attention rather than naturally deserving it. That distinction matters enormously in how the wealthy perceive each other. It separates the secure from the striving. Versace's aesthetic appeals strongly to aspirational buyers. People wanting a taste of luxury often reach for the most visible version. But visibility is not what established wealth seeks. They are not looking to be noticed. They are looking to exist comfortably above the noise. Versace, by design, is the noise. It demands rather than commands. The brand is still undeniably luxury. The craftsmanship is there and the heritage is legitimate. But perception has shifted. In rooms where quiet confidence is the currency, Versace feels like costume. Costumes belong on stages, not at private dinners. They belong to performers, not principals. But if Versace struggles with being too loud, the next brand faces a more subtle problem. It diluted its own signal by making exclusivity too available. Number 4. Dior is complicated. The house still produces extraordinary couture. The heritage is unimpeachable. Christian Dior revolutionized fashion with the new look in 1947, and the brand has remained a symbol of Parisian elegance ever since. But something has shifted in how Dior is perceived at the street level. The couture remains sacred, but the visible pieces tell another story. The brand leaned heavily into logo-driven accessories and viral products. The Dior book tote became ubiquitous. The saddlebag returned and saturated social media. These items moved units and generated buzz, but they exposed a widening gap between Dior's couture prestige and its ready-to-wear visibility. The logo became the product. In 2024, approximately 30% of luxury fashion owners in the United States owned Dior products. That penetration is impressive commercially, but problematic for exclusivity. When everyone has the same tote, it stops being special. It becomes a uniform for people wanting to signal taste without earning it. It becomes a shortcut. The wealthy still wear Dior, but they wear pieces requiring access, relationships, and knowledge. They wear custom orders and private client collections. What they avoid are items that became trends, accessories that flooded Instagram and TikTok. Those pieces now signal aspirational consumption rather than established wealth. They signal someone who shops from algorithms. Dior exists in two worlds simultaneously. One is rarefied and exclusive. The other is highly visible and available. The logo-heavy phases catered to the second world, diluting the signal for the first. The house created two customer bases with conflicting desires. But if Dior struggles with having two faces, the next brand has an even bigger problem. And when a house shows two faces, old money remembers only the louder one. Number 3. Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton is the biggest luxury brand in the world. It is also complicated because its quality and heritage are undeniable. The monogram is iconic, the craftsmanship is consistent. But that dominance is what has turned it into a marker of aspiration rather than a rival. Success became the very thing undermining exclusivity. Louis Vuitton holds nearly 10% market share in 2024. The monogram is one of the most recognizable logos on the planet. You see it in every major city, every airport, every influencer feed. That visibility has created a paradox. The more successful Louis Vuitton becomes, the less it signals genuine exclusivity. Recognition replaced rarity entirely. Among the truly wealthy, Louis Vuitton has shifted from a statement of taste to a default option. It is what you buy when you want something safe and recognizable. It is the entry point into luxury, not the destination. When the wealthy see Louis Vuitton, they do not think elite. They think mass affluence. They think beginner. The brand has tried counteracting this through collaborations, limited editions, and rotating creative directors. Pharrell Williams brought fresh energy to menswear. But no amount of reinvention can change the fundamental math. Louis Vuitton is too big, too available, and too visible to signal anything other than participation in luxury, rather than mastery of it. Scale erased scarcity. The wealthiest buyers have migrated toward brands with friction, labels requiring waiting lists, relationships, or inside knowledge. Louis Vuitton offers none of that friction. Anyone with funds can walk in and walk out with a bag. In luxury, ease of access is the enemy of exclusivity. Availability kills desire. But if Louis Vuitton suffers from being everywhere, the next brand made its problem worse by chasing hype until the hype ran out. Number 2. Gucci spent years as the hottest name in fashion. Under Alessandro Michele, the brand embraced maximalism, gender fluidity, and eccentric glamour that captured the zeitgeist. Revenues soared past 10 billion euros. The double G logo appeared everywhere. Then, just as quickly, the heat disappeared. The brand that defined culture started chasing it. In 2024, Gucci's sales dropped by 23%. The following year saw another 25% decline. The brand went from cultural dominance to cautionary tale faster than anyone expected. The problem was saturation. When everyone wears the same logo, that logo stops meaning anything. Ubiquity destroyed desirability. Gucci became the uniform of people trying to look wealthy fast. The belt, the loafers, the monogram canvas. These items signaled consumption rooted in visibility rather than substance. The truly wealthy noticed and moved on quietly. They did not announce their departure. They simply stopped buying. They found new codes. The brand is attempting a reset. A new creative director is in place, focusing on quieter pieces and stronger fundamentals. But the damage to perception is real. Gucci has become shorthand for aspirational luxury. The brand you buy when wanting people to notice you can afford designer. It became the logo of effort. Among real wealth, that desire to be noticed is the problem. The wealthy do not dress for validation. They dress for themselves. Gucci, with its logo saturation and trend chasing, built a customer base caring deeply about being seen. That customer base is exactly who the elite avoid resembling. That is the customer they define themselves against. But if Gucci represents the danger of chasing hype, the brand at number 1 represents something worse. It became the clearest signal that someone is performing wealth rather than possessing it. Number 1. Balmain was once synonymous with Parisian couture. Pierre Balmain dressed royalty and film stars with structured elegance and refined tailoring. But under Olivier Rousteing's leadership, the brand became something different. It became the uniform of Instagram, nightclub promoters, and influencers who measure success in followers. Heritage gave way to hashtags entirely. Rousteing built the Balmain army. Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, and rotating celebrities became synonymous with the brand. The aesthetic shifted toward embellished jackets, bodycon silhouettes, and pieces designed to photograph well. It worked commercially. The brand grew from 30 million euros in revenue in 2012 to significant global expansion. But commercial success came at a cost. But among the genuinely wealthy, Balmain has become one of the clearest tells of fake status. The brand is associated with overt signaling, with people needing clothing to announce something on their behalf. That desperation for attention is the opposite of how established wealth operates. Real money does not audition. Only 7% of luxury fashion owners in the United States own Balmain. Brand awareness sits at 39%. These are not numbers of a dominant luxury house. They are numbers of a niche brand with a very specific customer profile. That profile is aspirational, attention-seeking, and heavily influenced by social media. That profile is precisely what real money avoids. Balmain reads as nightlife, as flex culture, as the brand you wear when wanting strangers to know you spent money. The wealthy do not want that. They want pieces functioning without explanation, communicating power without volume. Balmain offers volume above all else. It is designed for maximum visibility. In rooms where real money gathers, Balmain is not just avoided, it is quietly noted. Wearing it signals you are still performing wealth rather than possessing it. That performance separates the genuinely affluent from everyone still trying to get there. The truly wealthy are not auditioning. They have already been cast.